Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, November the 15th, and it is 9:07 in the morning. We are back for Back to Basics, Anchor Your Week. We've been in this series for the last 7 weeks, and we've got 5 more weeks ahead of us, or 4 more weeks after today ahead of us. And today's topic is a continuation from week 3. If you go back and remember, Corbin started talking to us about online leads and how to purchase them, how to screen which online lead servicers are the best. Well, today we're going to dig deep in the nuts and bolts of actually converting online leads. So today's guest is Chris Webb. He's been in real estate since I don't even know when. He's got a real estate number way lower than me by 100,000 to be exact. His number starts with 258. I'm 362. So he's been in and out of the business for a long time. He came into my life in 2016 when I first went into real estate full time. And we started off our relationship and in our friendship and our working relationship calling leads. And I know Chris is going to touch on that today and just give you a little bit of his history and his background and how terrible those leads were, but how much we grew and how we learned how to convert leads over the phone, not having somebody in person. So make sure you have something to take notes with. Be ready to ask questions. Chris also attended Sync University, which is our CRM, and he took a 3-day course. And I knew that when he went, it was going to be a game changer for him. And he went for the 3 days, came back on fire, converted a lead right out of Sync, had a purchase and a listing out of one lead, and he's looking to do it again. So Chris, thank you for being here this morning. Take it away, my brother.
So there we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. All right. So today we're going to talk about cold calls, basically cold calling, but it's not actually cold calling. These are warm calls. And before I start, my presentation is I use Sync. That's the platform I use, along with Jesse uses it a lot, and all of our agents have access to it. So what I'm going to be talking about aren't necessarily cold calls. They're Sync calls. These aren't cold calls. These are people looking at real estate. So that's where it's geared. Sometimes cold calls, people will call for sale by owner homes and things like that. That script may be a little different. And if you guys are starting any calling in a certain niche and you'd like to sit down separate and go over scripts for that, that's fine too. But mine's geared toward Sync calls and the information I get through Sync to make those calls. So that's where I'm coming from. So we're going to cover several steps, but the very first step to uncover or to go over is overcoming your fear of calling these people. No one is comfortable calling these numbers. Okay. You have to be, first of all, you have to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, but you have to overcome your fear. And I know when I went to Sync, and a lot of other times when you've spoke, if you've listened to people talk about cold calling, how to do this, how to do that, they always have a list of objections printed down, even as Sync did. What if they say this and you have this? Most of those objections you have in your mind, they aren't necessarily going to present themselves. Usually most of your objections you have in your mind are just your nervousness. You're just nervous to call. What if they do this? What if they say this? You have to overcome your nervousness. Relax. You're just making a phone call. And the second point on that is you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. There's no reason to be nervous. This is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to touch someone, opportunity to help them get into a home. These people I'm calling from Sync, I know they're looking at houses. They're not a cold call. So there's nothing to lose. Just put that in your mind. Just relax. You're there to call. You're there to communicate. And we'll cover that as we go through the list here. But remember, you have nothing to lose. Put that in your head, understand it, and just relax. These are phone calls. They're great opportunities, and it feels fantastic to convert one or many. All right. Well, before the first thing you need to do is prepare to make your phone calls. Now, I like to make my phone calls outside. Not now, it's cold, but usually I like to make them outside. You want to find a quiet place to make your phone calls. You don't want to be interrupted. And it's a lot easier when you don't have someone listening over your shoulder. Like Cody said earlier, when we worked together and made cold calls together, we were right beside each other. And he would listen to me and I would listen to him. And it makes you nervous. I don't care if it's your friend, your husband, your child, someone listening to you talk on the phone will make you nervous. You'll start to listen to yourself and believe we all sound silly. It's easier to be away. It helps you relax, focus on the person you're talking to. Cody and I tried to critique each other a couple of times, and I'm telling you, it's nerve-wracking. And and real quick, we'll cover that later. Another thing is try to be hands-free when you make your phone calls. When you're holding a phone, it's a little different. When I'm talking to you now, my hands are moving around. You want to be expressive with your hands. They can't see you, but it helps in your conversation. You want to be hands-free. You want to be able to move freely. I set up my computer on the back of my car. I pop the hatch. I have the computer open, and I start making phone calls. And I walk around. And hands-free is definitely key. Another one is standing up. Stand up to make your phone calls. When you stand up to make your phone calls, your lungs fill up with air. You speak with longer sentences. When you slouch over at a desk, over time your voice will lower. You'll talk slower. Stand up to make your phone calls. Walk around. Make yourself comfortable, and it's easier to stay focused. It really, really is. Another thing that I do is right before I make a phone call, I take a couple of seconds to breathe. Sounds silly. Take 4 or 5 deep breaths. Just in through your nose, out through your mouth. Take several. That will calm your body. It'll fill you with oxygen. It helps control that nervousness that you know is going to be there. That nervousness that another thing back on the nervousness, learn to use that nervousness. That nervousness is there. It's part of the human condition. It's there for a reason. And I have news for you. I don't care how many calls you make, you are always going to be nervous. Learn that and learn to use it. The nervousness will keep you from even dialing the phone. Learn to use your nervousness. It's part of the human condition. It's part of how we're made. Use that to focus. Tunnel in, just like if you were a competitor. Keep your mindset positive when you're making these phone calls. That I can't emphasize that enough. This is a positive experience. This is one person that has put down their information, and now you are reaching out. It's 2 people. This person needs a house. You're here to get them in a house, and you already know they're looking. Relax. They put that information in order for you to call. Now, some people, you're going to get no's and you're going to get no answers. Sometimes they're gibberish numbers, but sometimes they're not. And that person put that information in there expecting a phone call. So they're expecting your phone call. They gave you that information. So call them. And it's going to be set your mind in a positive manner. Hey, I'm here to help you. This is what I'm here to do. Always be positive. Don't think on the negative. Try not to worry about all these objections that most likely the ones you're worried about are not the ones you're going to hear. But objections, I heard someone say one time, objections aren't rejections. Objections are ways for you to gain more information through questions. That's an objection is not a rejection. Remember that. And that's just an opportunity for you to ask another question. Ask questions. Pump yourself up before your phone calls. You're the best real estate agent you have. You're the best real estate agent you know. And these people are going to be awesome once you connect with them. You're going to help them. You're going to be the best agent they've ever known. Pump yourself up. You know what you do. You know what you're good at. And we are good at selling real estate. And we're the experts, and they're reaching out to us. So pump yourself up. You are here to answer their questions. All right. Now, before you start, after you take your breaths, you're ready to make your phone call. A couple of quick things. On Sync, I always pull up and I look at their first name and where they were looking. Their name's Lisa, and they're looking in Cleveland. Know that before you call. And a lot of times I'll put a little sketch pad right on the end of my car, and I'll just write that. I'll like little notes before I even make the phone call. But don't take too much time to make too many notes. The whole thing is you're wanting to make calls. You're not wanting to take forever to do it, but be sure and write down their name and where they're looking. And that will be part of your intro. It could be, or it's part that way, you know, you have some information. And when you share that information with them, they know that they're unique to you. You're calling Lisa and she's looking in Cleveland, and you happen to work in Cleveland. You know, you are unique to them. They gave you the information. You've now called them. And hey, I'm an agent in Cleveland. You've been looking in Cleveland. Let's get that going. That makes that phone call more unique to them. Be sure and know their name and where they're looking. Now, now we get to the sales script. Now I don't use a script. I use a sentence, and this is what they teach you at Sync. And okay, the sentence doesn't have to be word for word, but it does have to be very similar. The sentence they teach at Sync, the intro sentence is simply, hey, this is Chris. I'm with the home site you've been shopping for last weekend for homes, and I was reaching out to you to see what your time frame was, or were you just browsing? That's simple. That's all that sentence is. I'll repeat it again. Hey, my name's Chris. I'm with the home site you've been shopping for. Sorry, practice. My name's Chris. I'm with the home site that you've been using looking at homes. And I wanted to reach out to you to check what your time frame was, or were you just browsing? Now that gives them two options. What's their time frame? That starts a conversation. But it also gives them the option to say, oh, we were just browsing. Well, that starts a conversation too. And it gives them two passages that opens you up to say something to them. If they're just browsing, Sync teaches us to say, well, cool, that's what that website's for. What's prompting your sale, or what's prompting your browsing? I do that. I do say those exact words most of the time. Oh, so that's what the website's for. I'm glad you're using it. So what's prompting you to browse today? And that starts out again. It gives you a way to have a conversation because it started. Now you have to practice this, and if you want to change that sentence, you can, or you may have a different intro. I just know that this is what works for me. And when I went to the Sync class, he talked an extent of how they've done so much research that this is a great intro sentence. In the Sync class, he says not to use your name. I prefer to use my name, and don't use your last name. It's a salesman use their last name. You don't want to sound like a salesman and get them to just hang up on you. Don't use your last name. Use your first name, and use theirs. Remember, we talked about the last time I presented, try to use their name as many times as you can in a conversation. But the sales script, that's the sentence I use. Learn to be comfortable with that. Learn to have that sentence, or whatever sentence you use or intro you use. Practice that. It has to roll off of your mouth. You're having a conversation with these folks. You're relaxed. Know what you're going to say. And the better you know your sentence or your intro, the better you can adapt it to the conversation you're having, or hopefully the conversation you soon start. A lot of things, when people answer the phone, you also want to try to mimic their tonality. What I mean is if someone's talking a little quicker or seems busier, reflect that in your conversation as well. If someone's talking kind of slower, slow your conversation down as well. You want to mimic someone's tonality, mimic someone's mood, and also smile when you're speaking to them. in your intro sentence, and when you're talking all the time, along with having your hands free, smile when you speak. It comes across the phone. It most certainly does. Everyone knows it. Smile when you talk on the phone. It's just it works out better. They pick up on that. It relaxes them, obviously. I'm sorry, I have a glare on my notebook. I can't see everything. All right. So in that sentence, there's a couple of parts that we need to break down so you can understand why that sentence was so key to the sync education and why I think it does work. One of them, the very sentence, it diffuses the situation. Let's say, how can I say that? It doesn't make you sound like you're a salesman right off the bat. Hey, I was just checking, see what your time frame was, or were you just browsing? It gives them a place to go. It doesn't leave them on the edge. You're then holding the conversation and you've started a path. Keep your introduction brief. You're not there to talk. Everyone's answered telemarketer phone calls. Someone gets on and says, "Oh, blah 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 blah." It sounds like a script that way. You don't want everything to sound like. You don't want anything to sound like a script. You want to relax. So you want it, that sentence, the sentence I used. You want to keep that very brief, just like I said. Just introduce yourself as your first name, and you're telling them who you are, why you're calling, and you're asking them a question. They find out what you're selling or why we're calling, which is we're a real estate agent. We're here to help you get a house. And why we're calling is because you gave us information. We're wanting to call you back. I want to call you back and you requested this to see this house, or maybe you were shopping. That's their request for information. So you're calling them back, and you can tell them all that in that first sentence, who you are, why you're calling, and you have a question for them to start learning about them. And on that, real quick, I hope that I don't take off on this one. Your goal in phone calls is not to list their house that day, that moment, that minute. Your goal is to get an introduction, to get a face-to-face meeting. If they're local, that's going to be a lot easier for you. That's really your goal, is to introduce yourself, find out briefly what's happening, get a rapport started, because this is the beginning of a relationship that's going to end at not end at the closing table, but it's going to lead you to the closing table. You're not going to get all that in this first conversation, but what you're going to get is gain confidence from them, confidence in them as a buyer, and find out what they're looking for. That's how you can't sell them something if you don't know what they're looking for. But that's your end goal, is to get a face-to-face meeting to get more information from them. So just keep that in mind. Your goal isn't to sell them a house right there on that phone call, but your goal is to start that rapport and start that relationship and go from there. Let's see here. Build rapport. Want them to be comfortable and smile. We covered this. I'm sorry. All right, smile and make your phone call unique. You make that phone call unique by using their name and reminding them why they called, you or while they were on your website. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused here. Use their name to make that phone call unique. And then they realize that you are an agent. They have been shopping for houses, and that's your connection. That's what you're calling about. Don't worry about your other phone calls either. Remember, when you're on the phone, it's just you and them. It's just one person wanting to buy a house, one person going to sell a house. Don't worry about the other 50 phone calls you've made. This conversation you're having is the only conversation you're having today. And you want them to feel that. You want them to feel that you got to your office this morning and your first thing on the list was to call Lisa about that house in Cleveland. Let them know that they are unique to you and you are unique among other agents. And then place, prove that you are an agent by doing your research and simply looking at their name. When you say that, I see that you've been shopping in Cleveland, they know that you've looked at the information they've shared. They know that you've done your research. You are an agent in that area. And I don't consider that a fib. I've worked in Cleveland, Dahlonega, all these places. And when I call someone, I say I'm an agent in that area. We are an agent in that area. We are agents in the state of Georgia. It is not a fib to say you work in that area. Don't say you're an expert at working in Villa Rica. That's a fib. You tell them I work in the Cleveland area and I saw you were looking at some houses. And if you can also look ahead and you can see on scene the houses they looked at. And that can always start a conversation as well. I saw you were looking at 23 Rosebud. I'm sorry it went under contract last week, but there are several other 4-bedroom houses in the area. Did you see any others you like? There was another one here. Those are things you see ahead, and you can put those on your notepad there to have them. If you get to that, there you go. You have that written down. But be prepared in that way. But again, it's not fibbing to say that you work in Cleveland when you live in Beaufort. But your phone call is to build your relationship. And you do that through rapport, and you do that through what? Communication. It's what we do. The biggest tool, the best tool we have as agents is communication. That's what we do. We are experts at communication. So I want you to think of every one of your phone calls as a learning experience to communicate. It's what we do, and we get better. You will get better at cold calling. You will always be nervous, but you will get better at cold calling by making cold calls. You have to do this because every single one is going to be different, but you're going to learn how to communicate better and better with every phone call. And that's what we do. I promise you, the better we communicate, the more sales we will have. The world is open to you if you know how to communicate. In a world where everyone walks around like this, it is a skill to have. And we all have it. We're all fantastic at it. But learn how to communicate, and you will keep learning with every phone call. Be genuine with your speak. When you're speaking to all these people, be genuine. Don't try not to. I know we talk about scripts. You're going to hear about scripts and scripts and scripts. The only script I use is that sentence. Everything else is going to be off the cuff. And that comes with being comfortable and getting used to hearing certain objections. And don't expect objections, but be prepared for it, and be prepared with your questions you're going to ask after it. Now, there's Daryl and I made some phone calls the other day, and Daryl called a lady, and we had this on speakerphone because we were using it as a learning experience, and we were going through some phone calls together. Now, the lady had an agent, but the one thing that jumped out at me right when Daryl started talking to her is that she was very nice. She was so nice. And she said, well, we have an agent and we have our house listed right now. But she was super nice. Well, I think that the fact that she had an agent threw us both off a little bit, and it will throw you off as well. And you'll hear that a lot. Well, you have an agent. One of the things I said to Daryl then, I said, well, you could have made a humorous joke and just said, well, are you happy with them? Or something. And she also said that her house was for sale. And I said, well, you could have also made the joke, well, how long has your house been listed? And if she says more than a week or two, you say, wow, in this market, that's crazy. Those out, you're making a joke, but at the same time, you're putting a little bit of truth in there. You have an agent, you listed your house, and it's still for sale after 2 months, or something like that. That's an opportunity for you to have a discussion. Wow, it's amazing. I haven't seen any houses on the market longer than a week lately, or just anything. I'm not saying say that, but this lady was a very nice lady and seemed very open to conversation. And we both kind of got a little veered off on that. But after the phone call, we talked about it. And this is one of the things I thought about. I was like, well, we could have continued that conversation on. And that starts rapport. That starts a relationship. Even if she has an agent, you've now talked to her, and maybe that conversation, you have no idea where that conversation could go, but she seemed very open to conversation. Heck, have a conversation. You don't always have to talk about real estate. Move it sideways. Well, ask him anything. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to think of different things you could say. Just there's 1,000 things you could say, but just be open. You're not trying to get off the phone quick. you're trying to be brief. But if they are open to have a conversation, man, you have a conversation. You may get someone that talks for half an hour on the new car they bought. Whatever, you talk to them for that half hour. Make that connection. That's what you're there to do, is to start a relationship. Now, when we come to objections, I'm not going to sit and recite all the objections that you can hear, and you're going to hear a bunch of them if you don't just hear a click. And you really don't. I never have anybody just hang up on me. Most people will say something. You'll have some sort of rapport going, and it gives you an opportunity to ask questions, ask better questions. That's another thing. They said at sync a lot, but when those objections come, the more comfortable you are with making this phone call, and the more comfortable you are with speaking and communicating, the more comfortable you are with objections. Objections give you an opportunity to ask a question. The in that intro sentence, when I say, "What I was checking to see what your time frame was," or were you just browsing? Well, I'm just browsing. Well, what's prompting your browse? And go from there. I can't tell you what they'll tell you, but they may say, "Well, I'm getting transferred from work." Oh, well, congratulations. Or I got a promotion at work. Well, congratulations. Are you going to be moving to the area soon? That may be one. Well, we're planning on moving to North Georgia after the school year. Well, you got time frame there, and you have it's kind of an objection. They're not looking right now, but they're looking later. Well, the objection was, well, we're not actively looking. I was just kind of perusing. Well, that's an objection, but it's an opportunity to say, okay, well, how about you tell me what you're looking for. I'll set you up on an email list, and email you the new properties that come out, and you'll get to see them before other people. I have a app. It's called Edda through Sync that we use. Hey, I have an app I can send you through your phone, and it's a mobile app, and it'll make it a lot easier for you to look for homes, and you communicate directly with me. It's directly linked to my agency, and feel free to use it. That's something that we can send to them. That's another path you can take in that discussion. Most people don't have that mobile app. They found our website on the computer. Well, hey, this is our mobile app that's directly connected to that. That's something you can go that way. But you need to learn how to expect objections. Don't be scared of them, but understand there are times for you to ask questions. Let's see here. Trying to see if I have anything else. I'm trying to mainly today. I'm trying to cover making the phone call and getting them on the phone. You're wanting to build rapport, and you don't think about it too much because you won't do it. We naturally find ways to communicate. You're going to have to, in these 2 or 3 sentences with these people, feel what they're talking about and try to extend that conversation. There's going to be some obvious things that come up that you can just jump right in, and there's going to be some things that you don't really know what to say. I have one lady that I've spoke to 3 separate times from Sync, and she said, and it very frankly said, "I'm taking care of my aunt right now. She's older, and basically she's waiting for her aunt to pass." And I mean, how do you handle that one? I was on the phone with her, and she says, "Well, actually, I can't make a move until my aunt passes." She says this to me. So, there you go. That's something to be nervous about. There's going to be some things that are thrown at you that are crazy. And let me go backwards a little bit to when Cody and I made phone calls. What we were calling were numbers of people who were in, for lack of a better word, defunct properties, or who were back in taxes or whatever. And we were calling them to basically buy their property for pennies and trying to make them feel good about it. And it was horrible. I see you have this property. I can offer you, 10% of the market value, and we can close in 30 days, and it's cash. This is what we're doing. This is ridiculous. And then I have Cody listening to me, who Cody brought me in. So he was kind of, he was my mentor at the time. So yeah, we did listen to each other's phone calls. Oh, it was horrible. But Cody would, you do some bang up jobs sometimes. And sometimes we just got some crazy stories, but you're going to hear all kinds of different objections. The whole point is, don't be nervous about those. Those are not rejections. They're objections, and those are times for you to ask questions. That's that's the gist of your cold calls. Now, it comes with practice. Practice with your husband, practice with your wife, practice with your children, practice with your friends. Cold calling and having those conversations are extremely important, and that is going to make our business and your business huge. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And we learn that through making those phone calls. I try to get excited about your phone calls. Really do. I try to make my phone calls start at 10 o'clock in the morning. I put on a nice shirt. I try to dress. I don't want to sit and make phone calls in my pajamas, sitting there with the TV on pause, waiting for the next time to watch TV a little bit before I make the next phone call. Don't do that. Focus, get dressed, put your mindset, relax, understand your nervousness, take your deep breaths, woo-saw, and then make that phone call. It's it's exciting. Learn to make it exciting and learn to make that part of your job. That's your job isn't just to be on the phone, obviously, but these are all opportunities. Instead of going out every day and hoping you happen to run into somebody at the grocery store who's looking for a house, these are people that are looking. They're looking. So they're not cold calls, they're warm calls. And they've reached out to you by putting their information in, and for you to get it, they've made the first move. So don't think you're annoying them. They gave you the information. They're looking, and they're gonna need an agent. All right, and let's see here. I think that may be about it as far as cold calling. Again, your script can change. My sentence, I encourage everyone to just practice my sentence, which I will say it again. Hey, my name's Chris. I'm with the website you've been using looking for homes. I'm in the Cleveland area and I wanted to reach out to you and see what your time frame was, or were you just browsing? Write it down. Don't read it. Write it down and learn it. The better you are at your intro and whatever it is, the better it rolls off your tongue. You don't want to sound like a robot. You don't want them to think you're sitting in a room with 50 other people making phone calls, or with Cody beside you making phone calls. You, you're there. And remember, they're unique to you and you're unique to them. Let them know that. That's how you're going to start that rapport. And use your manners. Let's see here. And smile. Deep breaths, smile, stand up, make your phone calls, and be open to objections, and look at those objections as time to ask questions, gather information. Remember that every time you make a phone call, it's great opportunities that are there. Take them, treasure them, and learn to enjoy it. You're always going to be nervous, whatever. And it feels good to make all your phone calls, by the way. Once you've made, I'll set aside 20, I'll click 20 numbers I'm calling. Tell you what, you feel good, even if you didn't talk to someone. I guarantee you will. You will talk to someone. Daryl made 3 phone calls in a Chili's parking lot the other day, got 2 answers, two humans. That's 2 out of 3. I mean, that's good. And also, before I get off the phone, remember, it sounds so cheesy, and I don't like saying this because you sound like a salesman or saleswoman. It's a numbers game. I I can look on my contacts right now through sync. I think I have 154 right now. Well, when I got the call from Eric and Amber, which was a closed, listed and closed a house for them, I got 2 closes out of it. I think I only had 80 leads. That's 1 out of 80 that got me 2 closes. That's pretty good numbers as far as I can tell. And if you're a person and your client list or where you've got your leads from, you may have a lot more. Call them, call them, call them. I promise you, you won't get hung up on all the time. I very rarely have made all my calls and not spoke to someone. And I honestly consider a conversation more than 3 or 4 sentences a success in the beginning, most certainly. And I encourage you, those people that you do make those connections, if you're not helping them out now, if that does not lead to a face-to-face appointment, and it's not through your conversation, you know that it's not. Maybe they're not looking for 6 months. They may flat out tell you, we're not going to go until the kids are out of school. Well, can I set a reminder? Do you mind if I reach back out to you in a couple of weeks or 4 weeks or wherever that is? And really set that reminder. Don't just tell them that. If you tell them you're going to reach out to them, reach out to them. And I've done it. I've done it. I've gotten off the phone. I've made 15 calls. And here I told Ralph somewhere that I would give him a call back in 6 months. But after I made my phone calls, I didn't remember who Ralph was. I didn't remember that conversation. Who was that I said I was going to call? Do that every call. Your call starts with getting the information, getting their name, where they're looking. Your call ends with a note on that call. And if it's a bad number, take note that that's a bad number so you don't waste your time again. But if it's a good number, or if it's a number you're going to follow up, make a note, make a reminder, because you won't remember it. In 6 months, you won't. Make a note, call them back. Do what you say you're going to do. And I'm telling you guys, it works out. The sync calls, they'll drive you nuts sometimes, but they're always good. You're gonna learn something with every single phone call. So that's that's the takeaway. Be comfortable with what you're saying. Be comfortable with what we do. We are agents. We are there to communicate. Relax, smile, and start that relationship. That's how you do it. You don't walk up to somebody in a bar and get down on one knee and say, will you marry me? You've got to introduce yourself. You've got to build rapport. And this is the beginning. That phone call is your introduction. And be comfortable with what you're saying. Let it roll off your mouth. And please don't sound like a robot. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to sound like a salesperson. Take your phone calls, enjoy them, set them aside, smile, and look at every one of those opportunities as your next sale. They're coming. So that's about it, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks so much, Chris. Yeah, I've got 2 pages of notes over here. I just want to go over the highlights. You mentioned you have nothing to lose, and I wrote down everything to gain. We have nothing to lose when we call these leads, whether they're Sync, Zillow, Realtor.com, but we have everything to gain. And really, so does the person on the other side of the phone. They just don't know it yet, right? The other thing that you said, the positive mindset. I'm here to help you. And that's the message that we have to get across, that we are here to serve you and to help you. You said objection is not a reject. Objection is not a rejection, is an opportunity to ask more questions. Never heard that before. And I wrote that down. And your goal is to build rapport and schedule an in-person meeting. I feel like, even when I was calling leads, like I'm going in and I'm hitting that homer, right? Like I'm getting up to the plate. I'm going to hit a home run. My goal is to get one closed. But if we switch that back and say, well, let me just get a base hit. Let me just make contact. Let me get them to Because Coffee. Let me introduce them to Doug. Let me sit down, take them to lunch, whatever. Then all of a sudden they're really going to learn how much we genuinely care about them. And the last thing that I wrote down, objections are opportunities, right? Period. Objections are opportunities. And they're giving us the opportunity to see if we are willing to put in the work to overcome that objection. And I've had, you mentioned the person that had the agent, and I've had that so many times. It's a very common objection. But at the end of the day, if you will treat your scripts like they are the most important thing that you could learn for your real estate business, not the contracts, not where the area that Lumpkin County is located. If you know your script, if you know what you're going to say, and you know what you're going to say before that person even says the objection, it becomes a game for you. It's not this, oh, I wonder if they're going to reject me. No, I already know what they're going to say. I know how to play the game. They don't know how to play the game. And now it becomes fun, right? It becomes fun when you release yourself from that pressure. So we're going to wrap up this video. We may have to do another segment because we didn't get into practicing scripts and what that looks like to actually converting them to a meeting. But if this helped you, go ahead and drop a like on that video and leave us a comment. If you want to talk to Chris directly, set up an appointment to schedule, going over the scripts and going more in depth and converting online leads, you can reach out to him and we'll put his information below. in the video. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week for Anchor Your Week Back to Basics. You guys have a great day.